Yeah, let's just do 2.
Yeah, but people are asking for them.
2?
You're
It'll
insane.
take 40 minutes.
No, we can do 4 in 25.
Oh, God. But
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of 5 Idiots Talking Toys. It is a fresh episode of the ultimate guide to collecting vintage Star Wars figures. We're going to jump back in. It's been a little while since we've done a new episode. I believe we've covered 36 figures to this point. We are in the middle of Empire Strikes Back with the releases that came out during that film. And we're going to dive back into those figures now. So if you're enjoying this series, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and comment below. Do you have questions about these figures? Do you want to talk about any variants or different COOs? We'd be happy to do that down in the comments. We're going to keep it pretty basic for this episode for the new collectors, for any collectors who want to see some discussion about what you should look for when looking for a great version of that figure. And we'll get a little bit more into detail down with you in the comments. Let's bring the fellas in now. Lord Walden is here. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Charlie Bean Satchels is here.
Hello.
Hello. Where's those names? There we go. Charlie Bean Satchels. Brandon. No, wait. Hold on. Sorry, Brandon. Chris is not allowed to be last in every episode. Christopher is here.
I was just going to start complaining.
Right.
I actually have a chalkboard behind me where I write down how many times I've been called last. So thank you.
Yes. Now, Brandon, we're going east to west coast, sort of. Brandon's in.
Are you having your brother write that in his green marker?
Yeah.
I only write down the free shit. That's it.
Yeah.
Look at this. Look, I love it. Charlie Beansacks is cussing up a storm over here.
I know. He loves giving John more editing to do.
I know.
And then it's all to throw John under the bus, because if he doesn't edit, then we're going to all scream at him. It's like a win-win for Charles.
And a lose-lose for me.
Yeah, he gives you extra work, or he gets to make fun of you. It's so ridiculous. All right.
I think 1 or 2 episodes, there was so much vile talk that I missed half.
It should have almost been moved to an After Dark. I mean, automatically. If you want to watch 5 Idiots After Dark, that is a freewheeling discussion with no bleeps and bloops. You could visit our Patreon and become a member, and you'll get access to those. So, all right, let's jump right in for the reason that we're all here. Right, we're going to run through these figures. This is the ultimate guide to collecting vintage Star Wars figures. All right.
This podcast?
This podcast, yeah. All right.
What podcast?
We're sort of a podcast, I guess. We call ourselves a podcast.
It's a podcast.
Yeah. All right. Let's start with one of everyone's favorites. How can I get this on the screen? There it is.
Oh.
This is R2D2 Sensorscope. R2D2 is a droid. If you don't know who R2D2 is, you're watching the wrong video. John, I'll throw it over to you. Tell us about this little guy.
R2D2 is a droid. And this is the second iteration of R2. Right? He's got the sensor scope. And it pops up and down.
Right. From the first film, they released a solid dome. And
Correct.
A new, fresh release for him.
Yeah, fresh release. Brand spanking new figure. One of my favorite droids figures, actually.
All right.
Because I remember it fondly as a kid. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's throw it over to Charles so he can tell us about the accessory.
So with him, there is no accessory, but there are some people that sell that sensor scope.
Yes, I was going to say that. Yeah.
I've seen it like numerous times. If you're missing one, there's probably someone selling it.
Yeah.
And you know what else people sell, which is, not an authentic piece, is a lot of people sell a lot of people, but people sell a third leg that you can add to these R2D2s. I've seen a few of those. Those are fun. They're not original. They're not part of the figure, but you see it in the movie. Yeah. All right, let's throw it over to Brandon. Brandon, we've already covered the butt plug, so move on to condition.
It's good. So top to bottom here. So the little sensor scope that sticks out, you got to look out for that because a lot of time it's chewed up. It's one of those things that hangs there, and either a dog or cat or human will chew on it. So check that. Check the dome. Make sure it's nice and painted well, no scratches, and that it. I don't know if this clicks or not. Does anybody know if this is a clicker?
Yeah,
it is a clicker.
Okay, so make sure it clicks. Check the sticker. A lot of people grab the R2 by the sticker, and so that tends to get brown and nasty. Also, check for reproductions. See somebody grab that by the sticker there, and it's gotten nasty over the years. So you also want to lift up the legs. So the left and the right leg there. If you lift up those legs, you'll see. I think in the right leg there, it looks like some of the stickers are already wearing away. So it's another thing you want to look out for. Also, discoloration with the legs is also a big thing with these. Brown, pink, red, seen all sorts of colors. So double check that. Make sure they're nice and white. And look underneath inside the R2. Make sure that the screw is nice and not rusty. And that it's clean. That's about it.
Is Rusty still in the Navy?
Thank you. I want to say the same thing.
Give it over to Chris to talk about how much these things are going for.
Chris, what do you call this one that's on the screen? What do you call that version?
That is called the urinal variant. It means it's been sitting in a gas station urinal for about a couple of years, being constantly pissed on.
Yeah, the backside photo I grabbed was quite a yellow sticker.
These are one of those figures that are tricky, meaning it can literally range from $10 to probably $80 or so. You might see certain sellers on certain groups sell them for $129.99 exactly and $149.99 exactly with very bright white lights, showing pictures. But that's not really a fair price for these. If it was really nice and someone charged $80, I think that's more of a fair price for him, or $10. Literally, it ranges anywhere in between, depending on how nice he is. So, and he is one of those figures that if he was very, very nice, you could grade it, put the money into it, and probably sell it for a profit.
Yeah, and I'll just wrap this guy up just to follow up what Chris said. There's so many little spots on this figure that could go into the equation of how much somebody is asking for it. It could be a mint figure, but one corner of the sticker somewhere is kind of lifting, or one of the legs has those little tabs there that rubs against the sticker, and if one side has a little rub mark on the sticker, that could be a pricey thing. If there's one scratch on the the blue lens there on the front, little things like that could knock $30 or $40 off of it. Or if those things are nice, it could really raise the price. All right, let's move on to our next figure. It is Zuckuss, or 4-LOM or Zuckuss.
Yeah, according to Kenner, this is Zuckuss. And I think that they got this. I think somebody must have gotten it confused. I don't know the whole story, but somebody got it confused when they saw the movie or got the whatever. I guess they get an advanced copy of the film by this time because they're so deep
Kenner,
in the license. Huh?
Kenner did, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think so. I guess they got the characters confused or something like that because there's been this, But for vintage collectors, this is always going to be Zuckuss.
Correct.
So he is probably my second favorite bounty hunter. I think Zuckuss, but there he is.
All right,
Charles, you want to talk about the accessory?
The Zuckuss rifle is black. It is pretty obvious when there's a repro one. It'll be maybe like a painted one, so you can rub it on a sheet of white paper. If any of the black comes off of it, it's repro. It's usually white on the inside on a repro one, and they snap like really, really easily in half. So usually when you drop it and you hear the sound, you just know it's fake right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just add on in case Brandon focuses on the figure. The number one thing to look for in condition on this weapon is the actual grip. Because if it's been in the figure's hand, that grip gets chewed up really easily from the hard plastic of the fingers. So if you're looking for a mint accessory, you want to make sure it's not all scraped up there. All right, so Brandon, tell us about the Zuckuss figure.
It has very little paint on it. It's only the majority of the paint is on Zuckuss's head. The eyes and the nose are what takes the majority of the wear. So always got to look for nice painted eyes. So this one here has really nice painted eyes and a nice painted nose. It's got 3 silver pieces of paint there below the nose. Those are usually don't rub as much, but you always want to check that as well. And then the torso has that silver paint on it. The biggest thing with these is the torso will discolor and be a different color from the arms and the legs there. So this I can't really see it too well there, but it'll start turning like a little golden hue to it, and that's when you know that it's starting to discolor. Did you guys already cover the variants with like the circle heels and all that? That would be like a John thing.
I'm going to do that with price.
Okay.
So when it comes to price on this one, I mean, basic average price is about $20 for a regular Zuckuss. I mean, more like 18 now. He's not really selling for 20 as much. If he has the circles on the back of the heels and the knees, you'll see like a little circle literally on the back of each heel and the back of each kneecap. You can sell that for $25, and those usually sell instantly. This is not a figure I would grade personally unless you're doing it for your personal collection and you want him, to complete your run. Doesn't really add much value grading him and trying to sell him.
No, and this is a figure that's, fairly easy to find in good condition. The limbs are usually pretty tight when I come across these guys. I don't know what that reason is. I don't know if it was a lesser played with figure, or the hard plastic used, just holds up nicer. But definitely the first place that I look on this figure is what Brandon said, those eyes. Those eyes can easily rub against a surface if this figure is laid down, if it's played with, knocked over. So it's pretty easy to look at this guy in those few painted areas and know if you found a nice or not. But what I am enjoying so far already in this episode is I've never heard of the circle heels or circle knees.
So really? You got to look for that.
It's something I've just never paid attention, but we're all open to learn something here.
We'll talk about it in our live episode.
They actually put that on the label too. If you get it graded, they actually will edit the label.
Okay.
Now, I think, aren't there the circle heel and the circle knee? They're not necessarily leady, right? I think the leady has a different style head, right? Like it's a darker black.
Yeah, no, a regular U.S. Kenner version can have the circles on the heels and knees.
Yeah.
And
a lot of people think that when they get the circle heels and the circle knees, they think they've got a leady.
Oh, no.
But the head's different.
And for anybody who's watching...
I don't know if the head's different.
For anybody who's a more novice collector for vintage Star Wars, a Lily Letty is the toy factory in Mexico that made the figures for Mexico. So those are pretty sought after. Those are definitely typically much more expensive than the United States figures because, they're not as common here. Yeah. So let's jump into the next figure, and that is his good buddy, 4-LOM.
Oh, yeah. He was first available as a giveaway figure. And I remember this because I sent in proofs of purchase and I got a 4-LOM.
On what card back, John?
4-LOM, and people call it 4-LOM, whatever. What card back was it? Was it the
40?
The what?
40.
41.
47.
Oh,
That was the mail away.
The 47 card back is the one with the 4-LOM sticker on it.
Okay, and he was like, wasn't he the first of the
Nerd.
first time he was available? Right, was as a mail away, wasn't it?
No,
Oh, he wasn't. Okay.
no. You had the Boba and you had the Bosk.
No, I mean the first time that 4-LOM was available, he wasn't on the card yet, right?
Oh, correct. Yes, first time he was available. Yeah.
But yeah, this is what the Star Wars purists call Zuckuss,
yes.
but it's 4-LOM. So.
Yeah, I think that the guys at Kenner were just sent a bunch of notes to work from, a bunch of paperwork before the movie was released, and someone at Kenner mixed up these two figures who no one had ever heard of yet because the movie wasn't out, and they swapped the names. I mean, how could you possibly know who's Zuckuss and who's 4-LOM? They're two, crazy looking figures with wacky names, so it's kind of understandable.
Well, one of the guys at Kenner, I think they actually named half of these figures, and a lot of these guys didn't even have names.
Right. I don't think there's anything in the credits about their names or
one of the shows. The guy that came up with the name was there from Kenner. He told me what 4-LOM stands for. He called it for love or money. So
Nice.
all right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's throw it over to Charles for this unique accessory.
So talking about the accessories, he has I was going to go with the armor first.
Oh, okay.
So he has a chest armor. I have never seen a repro one before. Not saying that they're not out there, but I haven't seen one. The vinyl cape, coat, whatever you want to call it. Don't really see any repros of that either that I've seen. The rifle, though, there's a lot of repros of that, and it's kind of like the Zuckuss one. The fake ones are just like really plasticky sounding. Some of them are painted. If you snap them in half, it's white on the inside. It's kind of like the same as a Zuckuss, and they're made out of the same like plastic or whatever they're using for it.
Yeah, I would say both of these accessories are a harder plastic than most of the other accessories, and I feel like the few repro versions of this rifle that I've come across are even harder than the actual rifle. So some are almost to the point where if you've held a few of these, you can pick one up and it's very, very stiff. You can almost tell it's
very obvious.
It's very obvious. So I'll throw it over to Brandon now for condition because I'm sure he's going to speak about the cape and what to look for there as well.
So we'll start with the head. The head is painted, the eyes and the nose and the part underneath the nose there. So check for any paint rubs there. The rest of the figure, if you take the coat off and the armor off, it's all the same color, whatever tan that is. So it's all molded. No other paint on there. So you got to check the armor. You can see this one here underneath, kind of like midsection there. It has a couple chew marks on there. So you just always want to check for that. The back of it, I don't know if you can go to the back there. You want to double check that those two, the left and the right pegs go through the holes there and that there's no wear there. You can see this one here. There's on the coat. This coat is very susceptible to being cut or have rubs on it. And it's usually sometimes it's created by the armor that rubs on there. It'll create some wear spots or some holes on the coat there. That left arm there on the outer part of the coat, you can see a cut. So these are very, very delicate clothes that these guys wear. You can go to the front.
Okay.
You always want to check for frayed areas on the arms there, the sleeves, and again checking where the rubbing is going on from that armor and rubs and other ink and stuff. I've seen these guys have pen marks on them. It's just, they're really easily damaged.
Yeah, and from what I've noticed, if I may, that a lot of times the rub from the card back, his little frame inside the card back was like one of those deep orange frames.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of times the elbows will get like a pink hue to it from being
yeah.
on the card so long. And yeah.
Yeah, and this cloak or coat is notorious for picking up dirt and just getting dirt rubs on it. And it's it's from play, it's from it lying somewhere. But I've never tried hard to clean this coat, but I know that you could even just get a damp paper towel and wipe off some of that. So you can start very slow, very gentle, and I wouldn't say necessarily you're going to throw this in a bucket of water and clean it, but you can clean up the cloak. But don't be surprised if some of it doesn't come off. It's very typical. Chris, I'm going to throw it over to you for condition and possible grading.
Basic price on this figure is about $20, give or take. I mean, he could be 25 if it's really, really nice, and he could be 18 if something's wrong with the coat. So, it all depends, but usually around $20, give or take, is the going rate. And he is another figure that I would not grade unless it's going in your personal collection and you want to complete a run. He is not worth grading and flipping.
And just to throw the question out there, if anybody's thinking of this, what do you break down? All the prices. What do you break down the rifle, and then the rest of the figure and cloak and stuff?
So the blaster itself usually sells for about $12, and then the armor goes for about $3, I want to say, and then the jacket's about $4.
Okay. Yeah, you usually find the figure. I mean, unless you find one totally naked, you're easily find the figure with the coat and the armor. But sometimes you have to find the rifle separately.
So for him, it's different on other figures, but for him, no one is really buying the armor or the coat. So when you list them, they should be $4 or $5 a piece. They just don't sell for $4 or $5 a piece.
Yeah,
not many people are really looking for it.
Okay. All right, well, let's throw it over to our last figure for this episode. If you like what we're doing here, please check out our Patreon. You could support the show, patreon.com/5idiotstalkingtoys. We have a lot of different membership levels there and benefits that go along with it. You'll get early access to all of our videos. You'll get previews of collections that will go up for sale individually, the items on rogue5toys.com. That's our sales page. So come join us there, hang out there. And we appreciate you checking this episode out. We have a playlist on our YouTube channel of all of these Ultimate Guide episodes, so you can go through them at your leisure. And let's bring up the last figure. It is the Black Bespin Guard from Empire Strikes Back, from Cloud City. John, tell us about this guy.
Yeah, this is this figure has a different pose than any other figure that's out there. He's got a little lean to him, and I'm not sure why they did it that way, but yeah, this is the Black Bespin Guard. So people love army building with the Bespin Guards.
I have always appreciated, John, that they did give it a slightly different pose, because rather than just changing the ethnicity of a figure or the paint job, whatever you want to whittle it down to, I mean, they tried to differentiate and give you a little bit of a different figure, which I certainly appreciate.
Yeah, they could have very easily, painted his hands and face brown and then had the same pose and everything, but they definitely differentiated on this one.
Luke Hoth has the same pose.
Yeah. Huh?
Yeah.
Luke Hoth has the same pose.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
For a second, I was thinking of Bespin Luke, and I'm like, no, he doesn't. Then,
and you'll see the Bespin Guard. It's every one of these figures. You see his leg. Look at the pelvis area and look at the leg. You see how it's flat across his pelvis, and then the other leg is always on like an angle. That's how every single one of those figures are. Yeah. Every one of them. It's very weird how it doesn't go flush underneath. Never does.
Yeah. All right, let's throw it over to Charles for the accessory.
So the Bespin Blaster, it actually comes in 3 different colors, blue, gray, and there's a black one for Letty. We're just going to talk about the blue one for this figure. So you don't have the other side of it, do you? Or no?
I don't.
Okay. So on the other side, something for you to look for. It's supposed to be like an indentation right above the grip and the trigger. And some of the repros have them actually like popping out. Some are, some are painted, so I would rub it on a white sheet of paper, and some are made out of that same white cheap the plastic, same as the Zuckuss and 4-LOM. It's like really, really hard. Sounds different. I think there's two different colors of the blue blaster. There's like a lighter one, and then like a regular like blue. So if you get something that's like an off color, like weird looking, it's probably not the right one. But
yeah. And this is the accessory out of the entire series that you'll have the least amount of trouble getting a hold of. I mean, this is what I would consider the most common accessory in the whole entire line. And it just boils down to the fact that it's the accessory of the most number of figures. So there's that many of them out there because it's an accessory for so many characters.
Also
Right.
Couldn't be confused with the gray one too for just because you get a gray one doesn't mean it's repro. It means it's clear.
Right. True.
Well, there's blue, gray, and there's a black one for Letty. So
Squid head.
Is there a gray purple?
Yeah, the gray one looks very different. It is a light to medium gray. You couldn't confuse it with the blue.
Yeah, it's kind of like a pilot blaster.
Yeah. So that one goes with a different figure. That goes with Squid Head.
Yeah.
All right, let's get Bespin back.
It's the same color as the Imperial blaster, the gray one.
Yeah.
So the Imperial blaster, the M614578225G9er is dark gray.
All right, let's throw it over to Brandon. He's got a bunch to cover on this figure.
This figure is molded in blue, so any paint rubs, you'll see blue coming through immediately. So starting with the head there, that what do you call it? His helmet or hat or whatever. Always got to check for any kind of rubs there, and his face as well. His nose will usually be rubbed, and you can see blue paint coming through the bottom of it. So it's kind of hard to tell with him because of the darker paint. So make sure you use like a flashlight or something like that just to shine on the face there to double check that there's no paint rub there. Also with the hand, same thing, looking for blue to be popping through that. So check that. The sleeves are kind of weird with this figure because that red paint is painted on there. So you want to double check that it's the same all throughout. But what's weird about this figure is that they were really sloppy usually with that red paint. So you might see the red paint kind of, all over the arm or not uniform throughout. So just double check for that. The biggest thing you'll see with these figures is that the gold, and on this one you can tell by the chest that the gold is rubbed away. The gold on these, you'll find them in the actual sealed on card with no gold on them, and that's because the gold just disintegrated or just evaporates over time. And there won't be any gold left. So if you find a real nice gold one on there, just hold on to that one because you don't see too many that have really nice gold paint jobs on them. And if you do, they do go for significantly more money. Same thing with the back. You can see that the gold on the back there, and double check for that.
So price wise for this figure, the way that I do this figure is I go by the Bespin blaster is $8, and then I kind of look at the figure and I go over the condition, and it could be $4, for a kind of crappy version, and depending on how good the gold is. I mean, if someone listed one for $35 and it had perfect gold, no rubs, and it was all around really nice, like I would buy it all day long. But average price is usually around, let's say, $15 for like an okay one. But like it really depends on that gold and how much wear it has on it. So again, that's how we price it on our group. Other groups might just slap it up all day long for $20 or $15, and it might be very nice, or it might be like a butt plug. You don't really know. We kind of like to do the blaster at $8, and then we kind of average the figure out to be $4 to whatever.
Yeah, and just to point back to something that Brandon said, he was absolutely right with the red paint. There's a lot of times where it is just sloppily applied from the factory. So, take a close look at that. You might be able to get a flashlight and realize that it is a rub, or that it's just a sloppy paint application. Either way, it may not be something that you're happy with, but you'll see that paint a little too high, a little too low on the wrist. So you do want to check that red, and you do want to check that brown, like Brandon said, because from a naked eye, you might think it's the blue, or, not you don't see the blue coming through, that it's the brown. So and the gold is the most important part. I mean, everything about this figure comes down to the gold. It's the same with the Bespin Leia. That gold deteriorates, and finding them still, I mean, 40 years later with nice gold on there is getting harder and harder. But if you do find one, hold on to it. All right, guys, another episode, first one in a long time for our Ultimate Guide. We're going to get back into these. The people have been foaming at the mouth for more.
They are
episodes.
pissed. They are pissed that we stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah, all three of them.
All right. So once again, please support the show on Patreon. We appreciate you watching. If you are listening to this on a podcast app, come on over to YouTube so you can see the figures as we go through them. You can follow along a little bit easier with the visual, and we'll keep sticking with these episodes until we make it all the way through. Power of the Force after Jedi. So check out the playlist, watch for new episodes, and we'll see you next time on 5 Idiots Talking Toys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you.
Bye-bye.
See you.